Good evening and welcome to this historic edition of the Linda Banks Show on TV Bakwetu. And I'm your host, Linda Banks. Welcome, viewers from wherever you're watching us from. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm your host tonight, Linda Banks. Now, on tonight's show, I have the privilege and honor of two hotheads, and truly it is an epic evening, and I mean hotheads because they are full of bright ideas. On tonight's show, as I mentioned, we will be featuring Miss Laura Miti, who is a human rights activist, a prolific, incredible lady, and the insurmountable and amazing media director for the Ministry of Information, Mr. Thabo Kawana. Mr. Kawana, good evening and welcome to TV Bakwetu. Welcome back, should I say.
Good evening, Linda, and it's always good to be here. Pleasure's all mine. Good evening, Lord.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Miss Miti. Welcome back to TV Bakwetu.
Thank you very much, Linda.
I think I should be saying, well, congratulations. A little birdie tells me that congratulations are in order. We're looking at a brand spanking new human rights commissioner. Is that true?
Yes, so I hear.
Please shed more light. I don't know what to do. I feel like break dancing. Perhaps I should be curtsying. I should be bowing. What should we be doing? Please enlighten us.
Nothing. I don't know. Nothing much. I think it's something very much in line with what I already do. So not. I doubt it's much different. But thank you.
Congratulations, a very huge congratulations. Now, Mr. Kawana, did you have something to do with this? Because I know Miss Miti has been a bane, sort of picking on everything that you do. Did you think, let's get her on the right side of the aisle so that she doesn't kind of keep talking about me? Did you have anything to do with this?
Not at all. We have a country to run, and as the president keeps mentioning, it is about putting the right people in the right places and putting Zambians first. This Laura Miti has been a champion for human rights for the longest of time,
Mhm.
and it is only fair that she is now appointed as commissioner on the Human Rights Commission. And I want to start by congratulating her. I have no doubt that Parliament will gracefully and gladly ratify her name. So we feel that for those of us watching from the terraces, she's in the right place and the right person to join the formidable team at the Human Rights Commission.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Miss Miti, how did this come to be? Could you just tell us a little bit? Did you know this was coming or was it a surprise?
Not a surprise. So I was asked. I was asked about it among many things that didn't sound like me at all.
Okay. Could you just tell us a little bit about that? What other
No,
things were
no,
you
no,
asked
no,
for?
no, no. But so so human rights. I think the Human Rights Commission is something that I thought is very much what I do, what I've always done, something I understand. I don't think, well, I just don't think that I should ever accept something that I don't have competences for. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping that we will continue making sure that the Zambians can enjoy their rights.
That is wonderful. Well, a humongous congratulations. Well deserved appointment, that is. Now, I've been having a lot of messages sent through various platforms, concerns actually that you have been appointed. People are concerned that you won't be as objective as you've always been. And in our last encounter, I remember asking you, how do you manage to remain objective? So people who don't know you from Adam are concerned. What do you have to say about that?
Um, Human rights is what I do. So if someone wanted to silence me, they wouldn't put me in the Human Rights Commission. So if anyone, if the president is trying to silence me, then he's kind of put fire, is hasn't he? Because human rights is where you talk about the kind of thing I do every single day. So the Alliance Community Action, civil society, we talk about the fact that Zambians must enjoy their rights. And these rights, especially for me, the most important rights are the social and economic rights. And social economic rights cannot be enjoyed unless you have a government that's running the country accountably, is not stealing money, is not giving each other jobs and that kind of thing. So the ordinary Zambian can only enjoy rights if we have an accountable government. And if that is not what you want me to say, then Komakaya. Probably.
Izavutankani. Izavutako. It might backfire if that's the intention. I doubt
Yeah.
that the president's intention would be that. And like Mr. Kawana said, his intention is to ensure that the right people are in the right positions. And this is definitely one of those situations. Now, before we get started, before we get into the meat of this conversation, I would like to ask you viewers to share the broadcast with as many people as you can. Each one of you, if you could at least share to 5 people, different WhatsApp groups and different Facebook groups, because we're going to be talking about pertinent issues, issues that concern you, issues that concern your family, and various other things. Now, I would like to start with Mr. Kawana. I want to find out, really, and this is a very honest question. What do you think is a key to success when it comes to communicating with the public? And the reason why I ask this is because very rapidly, very quickly, you're becoming rather infamous with answering my penalty to journalists. Now, what is this about? I was thinking that perhaps we could play a game. Let's speculate. Shall we have a little speculation? Could this be intentional? Are you just doing this intentionally? Or is the pressure of the job finally taking its toll and you're beginning to lose your cool? Especially considering that you're probably doing your minister's job as well as your own. Another school of thought could be that perhaps you're getting fed up with the media who seemingly lack research skills on particular issues. And you're just fed up with that and you can't be bothered to answer. What's that about? Could you just enlighten us?
Well, I think what is correct to state is that there will always be opinions. Whatever you do or say in life, there will always be opinions. And that is why you will not find us responding when we are sort of attacked or the persona is attacked, because we have a job to do. The secret to communicating with the public is simply to tell the truth. And that's what I stand on. And I am happy and lucky because that is what the president stands on. The president always encourages, tell the truth. Don't sugarcoat. Don't try and spin a story. Just tell it as it is. If it is ugly, show the ugliness of the story. But it is what is important is that this is happening. So why has it happened? How are you mitigating it? And what is the way forward over this issue? Some people would find us to be what they would term as arrogant. Like I stated in one of the interviews before this, was that I cannot be the one to say that I am not arrogant. It is the people to say. And I have held many an interview on radio, on television, different stations. And these interviews receive reviews. And none of those have received a review that stated that I'm arrogant. Therefore, I'm comforted by the fact that I have never received such a review. The issue of the filer comes in at a time when we had a public debate. It was a 3-hour public debate. So for 3 hours, of course, we say there are a lot of things. But just that particular question about ministers filing in was a hot issue. But while I understood where the issue was coming from, number one, the debate itself was sponsored by Laura Miti's organization and Chapter One Foundation. Before that debate, Chapter One Foundation had issued a statement that only 3 ministers out of the ministers, 25 or so, have filed in their declarations, and the rest have not. And the government gave a position by my minister that all ministers had filed in. And therefore, I was being asked that question, and I said, all ministers are filed in. But then there was that persistence. It is possible that someone can lose their cool because they're wondering why the persistence. I've just told you that the official government position is that all ministers are filed in. And it almost looked and felt like there was an answer that was sought from me that would contradict what my minister had said, so that now the narrative that people run with is that his answer and that of the minister are different, therefore they're not singing from the same hymn. So when I was asked where they found in, and because we have not. I said, they filed in at the office where I'm supposed to file in. Which office? The office of the file. Now, that is just, what I would call a slip of a tongue. And it
Okay.
is exacerbated by irritation. So I
Right.
want to start by apologizing that if that answer provoked people and made people uncomfortable, I unreservedly apologize. But I did not mean to be rude, and I am not arrogant. And I think the many interviews that I have attended to can attest to that all the reviews have not shown that I am an arrogant person. If I were an arrogant person, I think point number one would be to refuse to participate in reviews. We have a history in our country where public debates organized by civil society and governments are called in. Nobody attends. The government is just a no-show. But we have said we will show up because this is how we hear what people are saying. This is how we engage the public. And so far, there's not a media house in this country that has called me for an engagement and I've turned it down. That there's no invitation that has been given to the government that we have said to the people inviting us, no, either we'll come and we just don't show up or outrightly say we won't come. We attend every interview. So I want to end this particular topic by stating that the filer issue was a slip of a tongue exacerbated by irritation of the persistent asking of that question, and whose motive, as far as I'm concerned, was to get me to give an answer that was different from that of my boss. But I apologize unreservedly. And
Well,
that is
thank you
why
so.
I did not, despite all the hullabaloo that Laura threw around, I did not want to um, sort of respond to her or write things, and I kept quiet. I said, it's fine. And, the drug situation in the country, and Laura says, look, whatever you do, don't allow Thabo to do it. But it's my job, and that is why you see that even over the drug situation, my ugly face is there because that's what I do. It's my job.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for apologizing. I think it's very decent of you and a noble thing to do. And that attests to your character, definitely. But I'm not going to let you off that easily, unfortunately. I do want to give Madam Miti her say because I must say I did enjoy that. Sadistically, I did enjoy her. I enjoy her sort of her writings, particularly that one. Before we let you off, I personally I accept your apology, and I think it's sincere enough. But I'm just going to read a little bit of what Miss Meaty wrote. There's a critical shortage of medicine in hospitals, she says, and clinics. That has not been clearly explained. Why the shortage? How long will it last? What is being done to mitigate it? How many people are we losing due to this shortage? She further goes on to say, why does this government find it so difficult to proactively provide the public with information? Anyhow, this probably it sounds a little bit like she's at the end of her tether. She's had enough. Anyhow, why the Ministry of Health or why the government finally decides that this is an important question to address. Please don't send Thabo Kawana to speak to us. He is a train smash. His arrogance is on steroids. One day soon, he will say something difficult to fix. Back to the substantive question, though. What's the situation with the drugs, Madam Miti? What do you have to say about that?
Um,
Do you still
oh,
stand by your words?
yes. I mean, um, but by the way, it's great that Mr. Kawana has apologized to the nation, I hope. So, Mr. Kawana's explanation of the slip of the tongue and irritation, all I'll say about that is that in communication, one of the first things you learn, or at least you should know, is that journalists are going to needle you. Journalists are going to push you. They're going to push your buttons. And it will never be all the wonderful things you say. It will be where the faux pas, the mistake, the arrogance, and that kind of thing. So it's a good thing that Mr. Kawana has realized, because this is the second time he's finding himself in this situation. So it was first of all special duties, and then office of the filer, and it goes viral. Everything else that you might have said on that particular day is forgotten. And then also he needs to remember that, Sakawana, that we're coming just now from a situation in which Antonio Mwanza shouted at us, Sunday Chanda shouted at us, everybody was just saying whatever they wanted to us. The public, I think one thing that the UPND government has to understand, that this is a different public. This public that voted the UPND into government is very impatient. Is also very aware of what's happening. We are very unlikely to take
It's
the
a
kind
woke society. I think we're living in this woke
exactly.
microwavable society where we want instant gratification. We want the government to perform in 5 seconds. We want free education like yesterday. We want everything sorted like yesterday, isn't it?
No, I don't even mean it that way. I think we are once bitten, twice shy.
Hmm.
So I'm not even talking about service delivery.
Okay.
Service delivery is a different question. I mean, fixing the economy is going to take a while.
Hmm.
That is understood. But that while should come with communication. This is why there's this problem now. This is where they talk to us like adults, like informed citizens. So what I'm saying is, where we came from, we had a whole government that either blue ticked us, didn't talk to us. That was the worst. What was one side of it? But or else they were just absolutely disrespectful and arrogant. What I've seen from the public now is that there's a sense that we will not allow another government to treat us that way.
Mm.
Okay, so there are things that I think PF government got away with that the UPND should not expect to get
To
away
get
with.
away with.
And when it comes to communication, yes, I very much stand on on what I said, that the communication is broken. It's just not proactive. So you have to ask what's happening with drugs, okay? And then when you ask what's happening with drugs, you see the president going to the Ministry of Health. So
Mm.
maybe he had planned that trip before, but it looks like he's gone to the Ministry of Health because there's a hula baloo. It shouldn't be like that.
We're
You
going to
see,
get deeper into the Ministry of Health. Yeah.
yeah, you see. So for me, what I'm saying is that communication should
Mhm.
be one, it should be proactive. Two, it should be streamlined. The last time Mr. Kawana was here, we said this again,
Mhm.
that we need to have one voice, and that voice has to be respectful of the public, respectful of the intelligence of the public, and also respectful of the needs of the public. When there's a sense of panic, it does not matter how well you're doing. Look at
Mhm.
it as marketing. Look at it as a marketing department of an organization. If their marketing is bad, if their advertising is bad, they can have the best product ever. They will go down and they'll be beaten by another a company that packages its information well. So for now, I think what we need, especially with an economy doing as badly as it is, people need to hear proactively from voices, and those voices should be streamlined. Not today you hear this one, tomorrow you hear this one, and you don't know who you're going to hear from tomorrow. Because I think that's what I would say.
Okay. I think it was just over a week ago you both appeared on this show, and we talked about communication. Now, Miss Miti, do you think the UPND has improved on communication from the last time we conversed?
No. And
No.
I it's
Mr.
if
Kawana
you
has
know,
been everywhere. What do you mean, no?
he's been everywhere, but all we remember is the office of the filer.
Mm,
You see where that's the problem, and it's not
okay.
because it's how communication works. Communication, you can do as well as you do, and then the one day you make a mistake, and in this case it just sounded wrong. Like he says, it's a clip of 3 hours, but that
Yeah.
clip, in fact, Mr. Kawan, I can tell you that clip was picked by someone from the ACA, our office, and he didn't mean it to go viral. He was just saying we're going to fact check. And he's a young person, he's a creative. He says, okay, I'm going to say the office of the filer. In an hour, the whole country was talking about the office of the filer. It came from the ACA. It came from our social media department, and
Maybe
that's how
perhaps
these
we
things
should.
work.
Do you think maybe we should have some of your social media people work for the UPND? How can they make a tiny bit of a very important meeting go this viral? Even we got
Well,
it here in diaspora.
yeah, well. The ACA is good at social media. I mean, that's our
I think what
primary.
is important, I think
Let me
what is
just
important to note is that, like you said, we are presiding over a citizenry that is woke,
Mm,
and it is IT work, and also things like SaaS, take upper stage. So when you give information, for example, that is critical and all that, they really don't matter to them. It's a population of young people. But when you post something that is like saying, you know, this is this about this person and it's maybe sarcastic or something, it will go viral.
it will
That
go
is why,
viral.
for
Yeah.
example, you gave an example of the special duties. Uh, I think the first time he asked me about special duties and what they were, and I said these are duties that are special.
Yeah.
The caller called in and said define further what it means. And again, there's a clip there where I defined to the caller, and I said to the caller, these are like permanent secretaries that are without portfolio.
Mhm.
And that clip is also there, but it is like put that clip away. It doesn't matter. The one that matters is this one.
Wow.
So sometimes as you go,
Yeah.
we are dealing with a country that is like a lot has put it that they've had an opportunity to be under the PF regime and they were disrespected and they've said never again shall we be disrespected. And if they
Indeed.
think of anything that sounds like it's disrespect to them, then they sort of take it on and take you on. And that is why you find that when that happens, you will not hear defense or fighting back or answering back. We just keep quiet, let it slide,
Yeah.
and we pick up lessons as we go because we have a long way to go. This is a 5-year marriage, and
Mm,
we have to see how we size each other up, and eventually we click. Zambians
yeah.
are like people that were in a bad marriage and then they leave that marriage and they divorce and they marry a new husband or wife. And therefore, they are on the defense and they are looking out for telltale signs that will tell them that this is also a bad marriage. Therefore, the
Yeah.
trust is not there. But as years go by, they begin to realize that actually this wife or husband is better than the one I had, and the trust begin to crop in. Trust is built. It is not a given. You have to
Mm,
build it. So we try our best. For myself, speaking for myself, I personally get strength from the number of commendations that I get from people, well-established people, senior citizens, young people who say, no, when you explained it, we got it well, and we move on. So I also master the art of making lemonade out of lemons thrown at me. So now I call myself the filer general in the office of the filer, in charge of special duties. That's just to say, look, let's move on. Life has to go
exactly.
on. We've got important issues that need to be addressed. And
Absolutely.
what the people of Zambia want are answers. But we
Mhm.
hear you when the people say, can you be proactive in your information to the people? And I think we improve as days go by. I was on another interview 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned that, for example, looking at the trends in the international market, it's highly unlikely that we will encounter um, an increment in fuel this coming Thursday, as the ERB announces. Most likely will be an increment. And that has been proactive and also preparing the nation that in the event of a likelihood of an increment, it is something that they understand where it is coming from. So for us, we pick up lessons. We are a listening government. And when people complain, we listen. And when people want things done, we do them because at the end of the day, we are here to serve the people.
Thank you very much, and that's reassuring. Actually, that we can have this conversation in an amicable way. I've just had a message from Mungule Sepa saying the people in charge of communication in the government need to do just that: communicate. Uh, Patently, it's like she's emphasized the communication. Now, without dampening the mood of the reconciliatory tone, I also want to go briefly to a person that I was conversing with earlier this afternoon, who I was hoping would be a part of the panel, Pilato, because he was quite harsh in his judgment as well. Miss Miti's one was kind of tongue in cheek, but I got the message. But Pilato was quite blunt, and he says Thabo Kawana needs to be reminded that the people of this country deserve some respect. The mediocrity with which he's busy exhibiting when responding to serious questions is unacceptable. If this guy is speaking for the government must do some introspections. We will not allow individuals like Mr. Kawana to undermine our collective intelligence. If he goes on to say, if he doesn't have the right answers, let him stay home eating jungle oats. Now that was a bit harsh, I must say. Such arrogance is no longer acceptable. We will not allow this chicken and chips arrogance in our space. Like he goes on, but I get the point. And Pilato, and he promised me that he will be watching. I'm guessing he's watching, and I'm sure he's heard your apology, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on swiftly to the business of governance. I know I've dwelt quite a bit on this because it was very important for our viewers. They really insisted that we tackle this. You know how Zambian people, we give them what they want, really. Now let's Miss Miti, you talked a little bit about the Ministry of Health. Let's go back to the Ministry of Health. I remember in one of your interviews in February, Mr. Kawana, you said the Ministry of Health is in a mess. Explain.
Yes. The ministry required to be sanitized, and it is still undergoing a process of sanitizing. This is historical mess that will take a very long time to completely clear out. As you can see, we're dealing with the issue of drugs, and then we're dealing with the issue of recruitment, and things keep popping out. You have got fake, non-existent health facilities, and numbers are attached to those. Resources are attached to those, human resources attached to those, and these are health facilities that do not exist. The recruitment advert is coming out, and before the advert came out, you had people that were appointed and recruited. So you've seen what the minister has done. The ministry itself has again pounced on the human resource department. This is after pouncing on the procurement department. Now, I just want to take a little bit of time to explain where we are coming from and why we are here in as far as the Ministry of Health is concerned and the drug situation. I think when we took office as UPND, we found that the drug situation at the ministry was such that firstly, there were a lot of bogus suppliers that would supply nothing but air, but claim millions in dollars of having purported to supply when in fact they have not. And then we also found that there was overpricing of medications that would cost ordinarily maybe to bulk buy comes to about $1 million or $2 million, but people going away being paid 18 to $20 million for the same quantity and medicines. Also, there was a lot of medicines that were coming into the country pre-expired, and these are medicines that would be brought into the country maybe 4 or 5 months before they expire. And they will get into the country, and the processes of them getting into the final destination, which is the health facility, and getting into the hands of the patients. 5 months would have already passed, and people ended up with expired drugs and so on. So it was a very big mess, and action had to be taken. So the entire procurement department at the Ministry of Health was disbanded. So that meant that there was no procurement of medicine in bulk from international suppliers at that stage. But what did government do to mitigate the effect? What government did was to increase the health grant that is given to health institutions, increased it three times more, because the health grant is given to health institutions to use for operations. But
Mm-hmm.
within that, they have got a limit of up to 10% to use to procure local drugs, as in to procure locally. So you would procure, for example, your antibiotics, which are produced locally. You would procure your antiretroviral drugs, which are produced locally. And you would also procure some emergency drugs that are sold locally using that 10%. So government realizing that having disbanded the procurement department, it meant that we have a disruption in the coming in of medications. So we increased the grant. After increasing the grant, we also increased the threshold from 10% to 40% of local procurement. And that is why health institutions ran a shortage and not necessarily ran dry. There is no health institution in this country that ran dry of medications, but it ran shortage. Shortage in the sense that, for example, when you go to the hospital to collect your BP or ARVs, you would collect enough to last you a whole month, meaning you'll only go
Mm-hmm.
to the health facility for once in a month. But now they had to ration because there was a shortage and they would give you weekly, meaning that you go
So
there
what's
four
the
times.
what's the current situation now? I'm just aware
I'm
of
coming, I'm coming. Okay, I'm coming. I was just trying to bring you from where we're coming
mhm,
from. So the situation now, as it stands, is that the procurement of the drugs has been moved from the Ministry of Health to ZAMSA. They are now the principal procurers of the medicine. So even that movement from Ministry of Health to ZAMSA meant that there are legal provisions that had to be taken care of to ensure that there is legality in that exercise. And the Office of Attorney General cracked night and day and made sure that the provisions were taken care of. And today, ZAMSA is able to procure the medication with all the legal entitlements. Now, the drugs have been procured by
mhm.
ZAMSA, and they are arriving in the country, and that is why
And they're
the day
safe
before
drugs,
yesterday,
right?
yes, these are correct drugs from non-suppliers and
Not
safe. But you see,
expired
we have to
drugs.
also no. But then also we have to make sure that they are safe ourselves. And that
Yeah,
is why when they arrive, they are subjected to testing at
yeah.
Zamra. And after being tested at Zamra, undergoing quality assurance from Zamra, they now go to, from Zamsa, they now go to Zamra.
Yeah.
And from
Lovely.
Zamra,
Mhm.
they are back to Zamsa for onward distribution to health facilities. But there are some drugs that also require to go to the laboratory at the Zambia Bureau of Standards, and
Mhm.
those take a little bit of time. The current situation now is that the drugs are in the country. They have completed the ZAMSA quality assurance, and now they are with the ZAMRA for quality assurance, and there are those that have passed already, and the trucks are rolling in, bringing drugs that are being imported, and there are trucks rolling out, taking drugs that have been qualified, and they're taking them to health institutions. So within a few days, weeks, the situation will be normal, where we will have the acceptable 80% of the drug situation being present at health
Mm.
institutions. Now, we must remember that prescriptions are part of health. There are drugs that you will not find at the health facility and they have to be prescribed. That's why you have got prescription drugs. Even where you are, Linda, it's not every drug that you find in the hospital, you still get a prescription.
Yeah.
But we want to paint a picture like prescriptions are something new and accrued to this government only. What
No.
is not correct, what is not correct to accept is for people to be given prescriptions even for Panadol. That is
Yeah.
unacceptable.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
minimum that a hospital should have is at least Panadol must be there. It's a
Painkillers. Yeah.
common
Yeah.
thing, and many
Thank you.
other medicines which are supposed to be. So the situation is that we had the strategies, we have the strategies, we
Mhm.
are working on them. But I must state here on behalf of government that first, this situation is regrettable and
Mm.
we do not take pleasure in seeing what has happened. And that is why we took those measures to ensure that the hospitals procure medicines locally so that the disruption is minimized and also to increase that threshold. Now,
Thank
number
you very
two,
much. Hmm.
this one is also quite important. There
Okay.
are medicines that are very expensive, that even on a good day, you still won't find them at the hospital. Drugs that are used, for example, during chemo, for those of our people who are cancer patients. There are drugs that we use, I myself, I'm a renal patient. There are drugs that we use as renal patients that will not necessarily be found at the hospital, and you need to buy them off the pharmacies. Now, when you go to buy those drugs, they're extremely expensive. Some of them cost 4,000, some of them cost even 7,000. So, what does this government do to ensure that our people still access that medication which they need? We have brought on board NEMA. Now, NEMA, you need to pay a subscription to it to belong. And for people who are in urban areas, they contribute 50 kwacha per month for a family of seven. A minimum of seven beneficiaries will benefit from a subscription of 50 kwacha a month in urban areas. And in rural areas, a minimum of seven people will benefit from a subscription of 30 kwacha. I hope I didn't say 50,000. It's 50 kwacha
50
in
kwacha.
urban, 30 kwacha for the rural people. When you belong to NEMA, you will go to any NEMA accredited pharmacy and access the medicine. Currently, NEMA accredited pharmacies across the country stand at 237. And that is where you are able to access drugs that are extremely expensive. Out of the 30 kwacha or 50 kwacha, you are able to procure drugs with 7,000 kwacha, 4,000 kwacha, and so on. So the people that were complaining, we heard our people complain about the drugs to do with cancer, and we have made sure that those drugs now fall under the portfolio of NEMA, and they're able to go and access those drugs. Even the patients now are able to access the injections, heparin, and so on. They're able to access that using their NEMA accreditation, and government will pay. And finally, just on this
Thank you.
issue, Linda, I want to mention that as a result of us giving the health institutions enough money as grants for them to procure, we who are renal patients, some of our colleagues go for transplants. And when they come back, they require a very, very important injection. There are two of those and very expensive. So UTH, out of the grant they were given, were able to procure locally those same injections, and there was no disruption from people who had gone for kidney transplant, and they were still able to access them from the pharmacy at UTH because UTH had bought. And because if they didn't access that injection, the kidney that they got transplanted with would be rejected, and that may result in death of the patient. So you can see that already those were mitigating measures that government employed to ensure that we minimize the impact as much as possible. So to answer your question directly, the situation right now in the country is such that the drugs are rolling in and they are rolling out from ZAMSA to the health institutions. We will be on television in a day or two to also show the trucks as they offload to the health institutions so that the
Lovely.
fear that is in the community is abated.
Thank you very much. Time frame. How long will it take for someone in Shangombo to get the drugs that they need? Very short answer. I was intending to keep you exactly for just an hour, but we haven't even gone through half the questions that a lot of viewers had.
Yeah,
Just very
we should be
quickly,
able
how
to
long?
get the drugs. We should be able to get the drugs to the remotest corners of our country within a couple of weeks or days
Couple of
into
weeks.
weeks.
All right. Thank you.
As I visited Zamra the day before yesterday, I found drugs allocated. These are going to southern, these are going to eastern, these are going. So we are getting them there.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for sending me those live videos of you visiting the various places where the drugs were being received as evidence for us to see that definitely you are actually doing what you're saying you're doing. Now, my major concern has been the fact that it had to take a whole Republican president to go to the Ministry of Health for things to start moving. What is that about? This ministry has been plagued with scandal after scandal. We've got two major people in the previous government who are still in jail, actually. I may add, from 2008, you had the director of human resources and the permanent secretary under President Monawasa, Mr. Kapoko, and Dr. Blaya. They're still in jail. And we know that the Ministry of Health is plagued with scandals. Why did it take the Minister of Health 4 months, 5, 6 months to actually start firing or suspending or putting some of these people on garden leave, if you like? Why did it take them so long, Mr. Kawana?
Well, I think you understand from what I've explained that it was immediately undertaken, the issue of the procurement department, because that's where the issue was. It was undertaken and it was envisioned that it would cause a disruption and measures were taken to mitigate the disruption. The president's visit to the Ministry of Health is routine. The president has written to all ministries, and the president will be going around ministries to have a sit down with the ministers, the permanent secretaries, directors, and many other staff to get a clear understanding. Because you see, we must understand that the Zambian people employ the president, and the president deploys ministers who exercise authority from him, given by the people as delegated authority.
Thank you.
And
Do
therefore,
you
he's going
think?
around ministries.
Okay.
So this thing of going to ministry is not just for the Ministry of Health, it is all ministries, including our ministry, he will come, including labor, he will go. That is
Okay.
his style. And
Thank you very
he
much.
is not going to sit in cabinet and receive reports from cabinet ministers. He will go on the ground. So when they're in cabinet and he's asking his PSs, his ministers questions, it's because he understands from what is on the ground.
Okay. Miss Miti, do you think Sylvia Masabo is the right Minister of Health? Very briefly.
I think so.
Okay.
So she has impressed me, I would say.
Okay.
She's one of the hands-on ministers. I tend to agree that she inherited quite a mess, as you can imagine,
Yeah.
but she is proactive. You know the whole proactive thing. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
she's proactive. She's convincing when she answers questions in Parliament, and I
Mm-hmm.
would hope that when things settle, she will run that ministry very well. She's one of the
When things
yes,
settle, people would have died by the time things are settling.
unfortunately, unfortunately, and she's one of the more one of the ministers who comes across as though she understands how government works and all that. So I'm not sure that the problem is really about the minister. I think that, like you say, the whole thing is rotten. We've never had a
Thank you.
ministry
Mm-hmm.
historically that is that way. You know, when you listen to the honeybee thing, remember,
Mm-hmm.
it left you wondering if there was any part of that ministry that was not corrupt. So I would hope that there will be proper cleaning up. Otherwise, nothing is going to change because I think the Ministry of Health was a cash cow,
Yeah.
has not only under PF right down, I think,
Even to
yeah,
Mwanawasa, way
Mwasa,
down.
yes,
Yeah.
it's been used as a cash cow, and the
Yeah.
people who pay the price are the poor. You know this.
Mm.
I mean, for example, Mr. Kawana was saying there should be Panadol. There should be more than Panadol. There should be 7 drugs. There should be at any institution in this country. We should find Panadol. We should find BP medication. We should find ORS. We should find antibiotics. You know, maybe we won't find cancer medication, maybe we won't find an X-ray, but
Yeah.
those 7 primary
Basic
drugs,
painkillers.
malaria drugs,
Mm.
should be there.
Should
way,
be done.
way beyond Panadol. And unless we get there, we are failing absolutely as a country in the 21st
Mm.
century.
Thank you very much. Mwelwa, very, very quickly.
Good evening, and congratulations to Laura Miti.
Thank you.
And my question is really quick. We're talking about communication, and I've always wondered why, as new ministers or appointments, anybody that's supposed to speak in public, are we not in dire need of elocution lessons? Because I
Thank
think
you.
the communication problem isn't just with maybe Mr. Thabo Kawana, but it's equally with the minister and the gaffes, and every time we're laughing at things. So that's my question.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Jacqueline Shimba very quickly, then uh, the director will take the two questions.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much. Laura, congratulations. Always proud to see a big sister getting into, the offices that will ensure that our people get it right. Thabo, good evening, my friend, and good work so far. Mine is not a question, but just to say that number one, Thabo, I'm very available if you need someone to help with setting the communication a little bit more straight, to write, I think, updates that people want to hear, that perhaps have clear timelines of the deliveries from government. I know that there's a lot that's being done. Then number two, for us to even ensure that when we speak to Zambians, we also use the local language. I think there's
Thank
too
you.
much use of English and technical
Absolutely.
issues. Let's break down our communication.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
Thank you. Mr. Pombo, we've got literally 1 minute before another program starts. Very briefly, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Congratulations to Laura. Calling from Italy, your name can be spelled as Laura
Very
Miti.
quickly, Pombo, we are getting
So,
into another program.
anyway, I would like to just ask a question. If the ordering of this medicine was coming primarily from India, as I understood myself, maybe from India and probably also from China. Calling from Italy, these guys here, they're very good in medicine and all those things. So my question, Kawana, is any research to maybe ask for a supply from Italy and
Thank
some
you.
other.
Thank you, Pombo. Very briefly, Director Kawana, and a last comment from Miss Miti. We're literally gone past the time.
Yeah, well, Oscar, the mechanics of buying from which country A or country B is really with the experts, the pharmacists themselves. They know what sort of medication to bring in, and the suppliers are engaged accordingly. And therefore, I would be out of my province if I started saying we need to get from country A or country B. But I think that those mechanics are left to those of our professionals in the pharmacy department. And Jacqueline, I just want to say thank you very much, but also that I agree with you that you're always available, and we will always consult, and we'll always move together to ensure that we get what is the people of Zambia want. What the bottom line, what they want is to be communicated to. They want to know what their government is doing and where the country is going. But it is also important to understand that we must always endeavor to know where the country is coming from, where we are, so that we set a trajectory together of where we are going.
Thank you.
Madam Welwa, I hear you. Um, it's a long journey. It's a marriage of 5 years with an opportunity for you to reassign us to continue 5 years and beyond. So let's see how we do, and we'll always endeavor to improve. Madam Laura, I hear you. The 7 medications, and that's exactly what the money is meant for. It's for our health facilities to ensure that they buy the minimum required medication, the malaria medication, the BP medication, and so on. That is why you find that among the shortages people are talking about, you will not find that they're talking about ARVs or TB medication, because that was made sure that it is given, because those are medicines where if you miss out, you create what is known as resistance, because you have stopped taking them. So there was no disruption for TB medications or malaria or ARVs because those were made sure. And that's what health institutions were encouraged to ensure that they have the minimum medication there. It is the big medicines that went missing and went into shortage, and therefore the big quantities have been procured by ZAMSA. And like I said, in a few weeks, a few days into a few weeks, we will be able to get on top of the situation.
Thank you very much. Miss Miti, final word?
I'll just say that, Mr. Kawana, this is the kind of Mr. Kawana we want. You know, measured,
But yeah, for me, I feel bored to be communicating, being very fair.
measured,
When I'm free,
communicative.
and you see
So
you are talking about being able to
can I
communicate in our
finish?
local language.
Can,
I love to talk in our local language to bring it down.
Yeah,
So
me too. When you
even
see
in your
the
even
president, Mr. Kawana, please tell him that I'm pitching Lamba for to be used in Parliament. He should
yeah,
consider it.
but yes, I think that governments can fall on communication. So I will repeat, and I think this ultimately is in the hands of the president. The president surely must know how this is sounding. He must hear that people are complaining on communication. He has to streamline it. It is this one is the president's mandate, and I hope that he does it. But yeah, Mr. Kawana, I liked how you were communicating today. So thank you very much.
Indeed. Thank you very much. I can't say very much because I've experienced Mr. Kwana in a completely different way. So when people complain, I'm like, what are you on about? What are you smoking? But I also understand when I hear the little clips and I was like, okay, that was perhaps a little bit off, but it's very noble of you to have the courage and the guts to actually apologize. Thank you so much. So journalists out there, let's focus on the main thing. We've got a whole lot of work to do, developing the country, focusing on important things. Please don't be petty. I think our people are quite petty. We spend so much time on unnecessary things when there's a whole lot of work to be done. Well, this has been quite an interesting program. Episode of the Linda Banks Show on TV Bakwetu. We have barely scratched the surface, and the people, they are sending all sorts of messages. Mr. Kawana, they're saying you perhaps should be coming weekly because we've barely scratched the surface. So we will have a conversation about that, maybe once a fortnight. We just come and preempt what you're doing, and hopefully that will be all right. So people are hoping for gloves to be on. That's Mr. Kawana and Miss Miti were going to box each other, but it went a completely different. You see how incredible apologies are. Everything is neutralized. Fantastic. Thank you so much, viewers, for having tuned in. This has been an episode of the Linda Banks Show on TV Bakwetu. Till you next time, God bless our country and God bless you. Good night.
All right, thank you.